Welcome to the Smoking Word.
What's up, everybody? The Smoking Word podcast is brought to you by CasaDeRock.com. You want to support the show, go cop some merch. That's the way this thing works. Spread the word. You can also follow me at HoyerRock357 on Instagram for any news. And you can catch us on Spotify and Apple Music. Today, my guest, guitarist for Built to Last, Angels and Airwaves, Boxcar Racer, and the one and only Hazen Street, and the man behind James Coffee, my bro Dave Kennedy. Let's set this shit off. The Smoking Word, hold on. The Smoking Word, I want you to welcome my bro, San Diego's finest, Dave Kennedy. I don't know about the finest, but San Diego's own.
I'm in San Diego, yeah.
What's going on, Dave? I'm glad I got to catch you, man. A lot of people, there's been like a whole Hazen Street, resurgence of people. People all, love the band. We're going to get into that. But a lot of people have been telling me, yo, you got to get Hazen Street, blah, blah, blah. And I said, let me get Dave Kennedy before anybody. Well, I got Toby, but I wanted Dave Kennedy on. Yo, but no, people want to know what's cracking with DK out there. So I was like, yo, let me touch base with you. And I'm glad I got to catch you, dude. How you been?
I have been good. I just kind of, I've kind of had quite a bit different focus other than music for the past, 7 years or so.
Yeah. No, we're gonna get into the roasting.
Yeah, no, but I don't know. I have been just ultimately, after Hazen Street and music is such a big focus of my life over so many years. I just needed something else, or I knew I was going to, because I think music as a focus sometimes it loses some of the fun or excitement, or you start making decisions if you're not in control of your decisions. You're making things just to make it happen as opposed to doing it because you think it's the right thing to do. And so I figured if I could find myself a day job, I could then make music kind of like, I could say yes, I could say no, I could just do what I wanted, and it wouldn't be like, okay, not what I have to do. So the past years, I've been focusing on a day job.
No, it's more than a day job. I gotta say, your job, you got a pretty good job.
Yeah, I'm fortunate. I see a lot of in the path that I focused on over the years. There's a lot of parallels to music and community and all that stuff. I still get to do. I just don't get to do anything loud, if that makes sense. Like everything's pretty. It's like if I compared, not that I've ever done heroin at all, remotely, but I'm just thinking, as a comparison, I've always compared music to like kind of heroin, and then like everything else like is like methadone. Everything just kind of keeps me even, and keeps me like, that my addiction to music and live shows and that energy, that really you can't replace that with anything else, or nothing will get you to those same places. But there has to be something that sort of just rounds you out and just balances you the rest of the time. And my work just sort of keeps me balanced. It doesn't give me the highs that music does at all, but it doesn't give me the lows either.
It gives you the jitters. For everybody out there, Dave is the man behind the coffee at James Coffee. You got based out of San Diego, and how many locations you got? You guys got the best coffee. I take it from the coffee guy over here. Even though I've been clean from coffee for the last 4 or 5 months, I'm detoxing.
Yeah, I heard that on your podcast or your conversation with Toby Morris.
Yeah,
and I was just like, and Toby was being
Toby
a bitch about it too. You guys like. I was just like, I always try to be cool about it when people say like, oh yeah, I'm just kind of taking a beat, or I'm relaxing from it, or I don't drink coffee. Yeah. I try to be cool about it, but deep down, it definitely
you're like,
me.
Bitch.
Yeah. Well, because at the end of the day, I'm a pusher. So
pusher. No, but all right. What locations you got off the top? Because not too long ago, a couple people hit me up and they were like, I'm in San Diego. James Coffee's your spot. And I said, yeah, go hit it. But I always forget, I don't know the demographics.
We have 3 like retail spaces around town. They're all like within a couple miles of each other. Essentially, they're all downtown or in or around downtown.
Google that shit, you coffee heads. But
at the end of the day, yeah, Google it. Like, it's there. There's a few places, and then we have like another work.
The good shit is that how we were talking about, like, I remember we used to talk about during the Hazen Street days. We'll get into that also, but it was never, we were never making no crazy money. We weren't making money, period, really. And I remember that was always kind of the thing, like, yo, man, we can't depend on this shit. We're just living off every tour paid for the meal of the day. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, it was all a way to like, but that's what, I mean, it's just a way to get to the next thing and connect the dots, and you try to keep connecting the dots as long as you can, essentially. But
the music got that, that came through music also. That's the shit about this music shit, that as much as I hate it sometimes, like it or not, our whole lives revolve around everybody we know. Everything we do connects to music. I realized that a couple years, 10 years ago, like literally everything has something to do. If it's one of our friends, if you see somebody on tour, they're coming through, your business, if you're getting merchandise, we're doing it with that whole hardcore mentality of how we get merch done. Let's find the merch. Yeah. It's crazy, right?
Well, that's what I did. I mean, that's I helped. I mean, all the music was all training for this, I mean, people might have, for me, as far as being uncomfortable with not having any money or spending all my money just to get to the next thing, we've always done that. Like, there's nothing, you've always been comfortable, or you've been comfortable being uncomfortable. And most people aren't like that. And I think pursuing music just because you love it and you believe it, regardless of being able to keep score and say, with saying what you have, it's more that you just do it out of, it is out of passion. It's out of blind faith. So and same thing with, I guess, starting a business. It was the same thing. It's like all these people would challenge me at the beginning. Why would you do this? You have all these other people, and but you're like, I enjoy it. I want to do it, and I feel comfortable committing like 100% because I've already been doing that with another portion of my life. Was you just committed 100%.
You know what's the cool shit that I like about your coffee story was you weren't a coffee drinker your whole life. No. It kind of happened later. But tell that story. How did you discover coffee, and how old were you? You weren't, because I was drinking, Latin people, we drink coffee when we're 2 years old.
I still tell people right now, well, I'll tell them, because I have a daughter now, and I've been going off of your lessons of when I can let her start drinking. I was like, look, Hoya's been drinking coffee since, at the time you actually told me 3. Yeah. So I was like, I get, so she's got another 4 months or 8 months until she can start drinking coffee. But I have, that's been in my head. I was like, look, Hoya and his family, they've been drinking coffee since they were, so it's fine. He turned out great. So it's
hell yeah. But how old were you? But tell that how you fell into coffee, because
it must have been in my 30s. My early 30s. I was always so stuck on this whole like not wanting to grow up thing, and I still never drank any alcohol or done any kind of, what do you call it, like recreational drugs or anything like that,
Poor you.
But I was like, I did get tired of saying I was always saying no to everything, It's like no to meat, no to this, no to that. And I was like, people were going to coffee shops, and that was the social activity that everybody does, especially on tour, traveling. And I'm sitting here, I'm literally drinking steamed milk and eating a cookie. And at some point I was like, you know what, I'm going to participate in this social activity, not just by sitting here, but, it's like, anyway, people drinking beers, they talk about their beers, drinking wine, they talk about their wine. And I wanted to get in on some sort of conversation. And so I jumped in with, vanilla lattes and whatever else I could. put into it,
From a real spot, or was it like a
No, it was like,
Starbucks?
Starbucks, and I liked Pete's a lot. Pete's was I liked that better as far as, as far as what I was getting. But it took me a while. I think I was in Australia. I know I was in Australia. I don't know why I said it. I know I was in Australia, and where they served me a flat white, and I just never had anything like that in my life. At that point, the guy served it to me, and I took a sip, and I was just, my mind was pretty blown from that point. And that started me just asking questions like, why is this so much different and so much better? And there was nothing in it but milk and espresso.
Yeah.
Steamed milk and espresso. And I was like, and so when I came back home, I'm looking around. And that was my first stage into all that stuff. And then eventually I found another cup of coffee in Los Angeles where it was just a cup of black coffee. And again, it had that sort of connection with nothing added into it. I just thought it was, and then it started connecting that, oh my God, like what coffee is, it can be so much more than just this sort of black industrial liquid. It can have all these flavors, and it can be different. It can be brewed all these different ways. And so it just really took me down a path of being a home enthusiast.
And it came at a good time too, because like the coffee culture got big. It's always big, but it got really mainstream, which, and people hate when shit gets mainstream, but the good part about it is the quality goes up. You get better quality, and more people could research info on it and all that shit. So
yeah, and it's different because we had so many. It embraces such a large demographic. You don't, in music and in so many different forms of art. If you like something, and then all of a sudden Joe Normal, all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, you like, you like Madball, and you're like, and then you look at yourself and you look at him. You look at yourself and you look at him, you're like, well, fuck, like, wait a second, like, what just happened? Like, I don't identify with that guy, but yet and you can get kind of confused. Or people they shouldn't, but, you do, because you're trying to, through music and through, whatever your path is, let's say music, you're trying to create your identity with, the things you listen to, the things you wear. And if some other guy or other human is that you just can't see connecting with, it'll kind of, that's what happens, I think, with when things become popular, is that it screws with people's psyches. All of a sudden they're not who they thought they were, and they have to find their individuality again. And coffee doesn't do that. Like, you go into a coffee shop and it's like going into a grocery store. I mean, it reduces the demographic, to some specialty shops and different things like that. But essentially, coffee can also just be coffee. So you don't feel like confused by liking the same amount of coffee. So I think the more education and the way it's grown, it only helps, the Starbucks and the Pete's, and they've only helped, and them being in the movies and being all that, like it's allowed people that also go like, oh, if that's great, like what else is great, and so they've really, so many, the media, entertainment has, opened up so many doors for smaller coffee roasters like ourselves, because they've embraced it too, And
now there's like a lot of bands putting out coffee, people around the music scene, they're roasting and doing all that type of stuff. But the crazy part, as much as people want to say liquor and drugs and rock and roll, people forget that in touring, you wake up, the first thing you want to do is drink a coffee. Maybe now you would appreciate that part more. But that's where I think the magic of coffee comes in, is when you're traveling in the morning with other people. That's where you kind of, your brain wakes up and you start your bullshitting over. I love it on tours. That morning coffee and that morning shit talking was always the best. You know what I mean? That's where the magic of that. And there used to be a really good show on TV. I forgot on which. I'm fucking one of these cable channels. It was called On Dangerous Grounds. You don't remember that?
I never saw it, but I've seen. I'm aware of it. Yeah, and I know the. I don't know if he's considered the owner, but the founder. How those kind of companies break their things up. But yeah, the La Colombe is his his jam. And
what was cool?
they're
What was cool about that was he kind of broke down the story. A lot. There was a lot of cool shit I learned about it. Like obviously my mother's from Nicaragua, was rest in peace. But big coffee culture, and coffee is very cheap in South America. But the secret was how to get the coffee without it molding from South America to the States. That was the hard part. In America, they broke it down on the show where America had very low standards on mold on their coffee. Like the average coffee spot got moldy coffee. Like, a lot of these big chains, they let a lot of shit coffee go through because the standards were low. And then the high-end coffee was because they were able to transport it from these spots or, before it was locally, and having it, shipped from these villages back to the States. And they kind of broke it down how espresso got to Brazil, and he actually went into the jungle with his one family, very poor family, coffee family, but they're roasting fucking espresso in an old ceramic round thing, old style. And they said that was brought from Italy. And there's a lot of cool shit that comes with coffee, It's like
well, I think like it's cultural to the region that it's in. It's fun to see. It actually identifies a place, like the way coffee would be made in Italy to the way the coffee would be made in France. They actually have things are now all bled over and washed out now, but the way coffee was actually roasted in the Northeast of America compared to the Northwest of America, it's really fun to think that just wherever you're at, it's, you could be like, oh, like I said, things have now, everything's been changed, but it's just really cool at times that's really it's like history,
Yeah. Have you ever tried that coffee that the monkey shits out or whatever that thing is?
Yeah. Coffee de walk. Yeah. But I essentially, unless somebody challenges me or tells me that I've got it all wrong, but I don't. I don't think it's, unfortunately, the way that coffee has now become such a, the whole thing, the cost of it is based on supply and demand, right? If an animal is eating something, going through its digestive system and then coming out the other end, and then that's considered the processing of the coffee, there can only be so much of it. And then they've been marketing it as this sort of no acidity, all the kind of silly things, really. And it became a very high specialty demand. So now it can be something they can charge a lot of money for. And then therefore they would rather try to meet demand with that high dollar amount. So they start putting those animals in cages and force feeding them and doing all kinds of things. You're kind of all right, well, look, the reality is that's not it's kind of
if you need a gorilla to eat some beans and shit it out for you, I need a
I know
job. This COVID,
I'll send you a whole bag.
Send me a bag. We could do this shit live on the podcast. I'll shit a mouse. So it's coming for the sauce.
Everybody that really wants a piece of Hoya, that's
you can have it now. But all right, look at the music got you to where you at now. And I know, obviously, you came up in San Diego. Obviously, you were. It was proper San Diego, or was it fucking? You grew up outside San Diego or something?
Outside of San Diego, in the mean streets of Rancho Bernardo.
Oh yeah, I know Bernardo, not Rancho Cucamonga, but all right. For everybody out there who don't know, Dave played in a whole bunch of bands. Built to Last was the hardcore band.
Yeah, I played in a band. My journey in that was a band called Built to Last, and then a band called Over My Dead Body.
Built to Last was first, or Over My Dead Body?
Yeah, that was first, and then and that was my intro into this whole. I really got, even though we were in San Diego, I felt I really got connected to. We had a pretty good. I mean, it's a small scene, but we had a pretty collective scene, so it was fun to be in, but we were always obviously looking how it lined up for each person. I really liked all the New York bands,
and that's what I was gonna say, your area, because still San Diego got that vibe. It was always obviously San Diego, LA, and then up north. You know, when you hear it,
Yeah.
San Diego always had that. Maybe also because you gotta, you know, you're also bordered Mexico, and you gotta. It was always a little bit, you know, it had that vibe, a little bit more wild.
Well, I would give us in the early 90s and all that kind of stuff. I mean, us in San Francisco were really kind of connected in that way. We didn't like Los Angeles, and Los Angeles never had a good sense of, and I don't know how many people, if it upsets people, but you know, of community, because it's so spread out. There's so many people. It's hard to say like you're, you know, if you're in one part of Los Angeles, it's just not the same, you know. And San Diego is small, like, and the Bay Area is essentially all so connected that I think it has, you know, we were able to be more diverse. Like, we weren't so separate from each other, like and so you had to all kind of be together always. We didn't have separate shows for individual neighborhoods, and where I feel like Los Angeles almost has that.
Definitely, because it was widespread. I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Within Los Angeles, they had their own world. Then San Diego was always San Diego, and the Bay was always the Bay. Yeah,
and we would just, I feel like from the Bay to us, we would always just try to skip over.
Yeah, and how did you find it? I mean, California has that special thing with punk. You know, a lot of people get into it through the old punk. You know, the whole punk movement, whichever bands were coming out of there. You came from that more than the metal shit, right? Or you know, because
I didn't come from metal at all. I came from I was more like new wave, to be honest with you. I just happened to the lyrically, and the angst is what, when somebody first played me, you know, initially like Minor Threat, and then into Gorilla Biscuits, and then into whatever, I was like, and the stuff they were saying, I really liked it, because I think when you are growing up, if you're a skateboarder, surfer, into some aggressive music, people would look at you like you were whatever, you know, they would judge you in a way that, like, you know, I didn't care to be judged, I guess. So then I was listening to these bands that like had all that sort of energy, and yet they were kind of talking about, you know, being something else, you know, which was being straight edge. And I was like, I liked that juxtaposition of, you know, having a shaved head and running around and being loud. And I was like, but you that go to, you know, like I you know, and it didn't, not liking adults or whatever when I was a kid, like most of us didn't.
Still don't.
I was like, you're judging me, but yet I'm sure that you know, you're just a degenerate, you know, and and then you free yourself and wash your sins away on Sunday, you know. So I was like, don't be so quick to judge. So it's kind of all where I already was, and I just started hearing some of these bands that I just really liked, and it was cool. It was something different, because down here we were all about, there was so much, you know, SoCal, the punk scene and the surf punk scene, as far as from all the bands from Pennywise and all the Fat Record stuff. And I was like, I didn't really, again, that kind of played into what people would have expected, you know, of me. And so that's why I went on the East Coast stuff, and and then also in general, just the East Coast stuff as an umbrella, but then breaking it down to some of those other straight edge bands and stuff with their lyrically, I was like, but I could kind of use that as a guideline on how I wanted to, you know, not confuse, what would just like make people go like, oh, like you don't do that, or you are this way, or something like that, you know. So
that was the thing for sure. Like the whole San Diego, like you said, it makes more sense, and the whole Bay always had a more connection with the East Coast than Los Angeles. Los Angeles had its own world, you know what I mean? They had their bands or whatever, but for hardcore, for sure, San Diego was always like, oh, you're gonna get the guys running on people's heads. Oh, that's like New York style, you know. And it was always like that. And how did you fall into guitar? That's one thing I never knew. Like, what did you play anything before, or why guitar, or was that the only thing you had?
Richie Valens, man, Richie Valens.
Come on,
I mean, I fell on guitar because of that. La Bamba, the movie, was just like, I mean, I thought that was the coolest cat on the planet. Like walking around school with his guitar on his back, I was like, this guy was, everything about that dude was cool. So I wanted to play the guitar. That's all.
How
That's
old?
just how I fit in. 10. Yeah. I was playing violin before that. So yeah, I was playing violin. My mom had me playing violin from when I was like 3 or 4. And yeah, she gave me a chance to jump ship, and I did. I was like, I want to play this other thing. I'm on it. Like, I watched that movie and I was like, that's what I want to do. And I mean, I never become very good at it, but but it was something I liked. And it's just, guitar just became something, the way I fit in. You know, if I think of pieces of a band as pieces to a puzzle, that's just my shape. You know, it wasn't anything because I have an actual connection or love with that particular instrument. I just liked being able to fit in somewhere.
Yeah, and Built to Last. How old? So that's your first band. How old were you when that started? Because, you know, it's funny. Not too long ago, it came up somewhere. Somebody was talking about Built to Last. I was like, oh shit, Dave Kennedy. Somebody, I don't know. I saw an interview with somebody. I forgot where, but somebody brought it up.
It was just again, I just happened to fit in. Some guys were trying to start a band, and
how old?
I was probably 17 years old, and I was like, and they're like, oh, this awkward kid over here can kind of play the guitar, like. And maybe I was 18, but I had to have been pretty young, you know, somewhere around there. And I remember, it was horrible, but
but the band made noise. The band. How long were you guys around? Because, you know, a bunch of years ago, you know, again, like I said, somebody brought it up not too long ago on an interview or something.
That had been about 6 years. I mean, 94 to 2000. I can't remember when.
Those are key years.
And what's that?
Those are key years for hardcore. That next, you know, era.
Yeah. As much as I think because coming in, I miss. Like, I imagine you were kind of a baby in the mid 80s, right?
Oh yeah, I was a cute little baby.
Yeah, in the mid 80s, but yet you were there, like seeing Agnostic Front and seeing all those bands. I
came in on the last end of that. Like, my first show was in '88, so you'll never hear me say I'm old school or none of that, because old school is like Stigma and all those fucking guys, you know, Roger.
Yeah, because then there's the guys before you, but you were like right there. You ultimately were there. And so I'm later in the 90s, and plus I'm on the West Coast, but I still was looking like I missed it by a million miles, but I missed things by so many years. And then, so you still had a lot of development through the 90s, you know, for all that music and things that we were a part of. We still got to see things and hear things. I was a little closer to some things than I thought I was, you know, now looking back and listening to some, listening to the people that you've been talking to, and I've been listening to some of the people Toby's been talking to on his podcast, and I'm like, holy shit, like, they actually reference years that I was, you know, participating.
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't there, but you know what I mean? Like, I was actually like, I bought that record, or I went to that show, or I was like, I know that. Like, it's kind of crazy. It's cool.
Yeah, you know what it is? What I also think it is part, you know, with a guy like you included and not even know it. And the same thing with guys like us was that a lot of the old school people, minus, you know, a Roger and Stigma and a handful of other dudes, they forgot about the scene and left it. Even though we're not like going to every show or whatever, we continued for many years. If it wasn't through our one band, it was through another band still connected to the scene. And I think we had a lot more, not me personally, but like guys like us put a lot more time than the average dude in the earlier days. You know, there was more.
You're like, what is that? I don't know. You're now, and I can say it about you, and maybe you don't want to say it about yourself, but yeah, you're like top tier. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're at the very, like, 100%, you know, because you guys have been unwavering in your representation of that particular music scene and commitment to it. Like, I don't know, is there another band? I mean, I don't know if you can answer that question. Or
it's just we basically had no choice. You know, if it wasn't this, it'd be Robin Banks.
Yes, I know.
Or coffee shops. I'll
rob
be
a
right
coffee
now.
shop.
I'll be
The only
like
thing
this.
is there's not gonna be much. There's not much money in a coffee shop.
Yo,
There ain't
Dave.
much money.
Yo, Dave, you got money? Yo, Hoya, is that
Yeah.
you? Yo, Dave. But all right, but yeah, no, we all put in our time, and again, like I said, I had a hardcore kid. He was hitting me about your spot. Yo, that's this guy, but I'm like, we're still, in the mix, doing things, and guy, especially like you guys, I know when bands come on the road, you're always inviting them, and guys, whenever they go there, they go, I want to check out Dave in the spot. And that's the cool shit I like. I like, when our people, are doing other things, and still, it's good to feel that love, with the other things that we're doing and shit.
Well, it's just still, I mean, it's like you said, it's maybe in this point, because we've gotten so old and so many years have gone by, that's still the most critical development of my life, really, was those years, that music. I mean, that's really set my work ethic, the way I interact with people, the way I hope people interact with me. I mean, I learned so much through being immersed in San Diego and music and the people around here, but then getting a chance to be immersed in your world. I mean, even though I'm like just a small portion of it.
CasaDeRock.com,
home of that fly DIY. You want to support the show? Go cop some merch right now. We got a lot of new t-shirts, shorts, and caps available. Everything is made in-house by your boy on the spot. So show some love, support the movement. CasaDeRock.com is the spot.
And I mean, that was, that really shaped a lot of.
Yeah,
it did. It shaped who I am.
Hardcore is, I tell people, it's like we have a superpower. And that doesn't mean that we don't go to every show. We're not there stage diving. But once that shit's in you, we have a thick skin. You know how that is. It's like we've seen it all. We've been in the worst predicaments. It doesn't matter if you came from money or not. If you were in this world, you were thrown into all types of lifestyles.
Essentially, in the short of it, if you're in this world, you're comfortable or you're familiar with getting punched in the face.
Yeah.
And you understand. And you understand that there's consequences to your actions, and so you're aware of everything around you, and you respect things around you, And I think that's so important, and also it's so important in anyone's development, hopefully. Yeah. And that was. And
the cool shit about you was, all right, you went from doing the hardcore, so it was that, and then you had your second band, and the second band, Over Your Dead Body, you said, right?
Yeah, over my dead body, but
over my dead body, over your dead body. But
I get a lot of credit for that, or in that world, with friends, I get more credit than I probably deserve in that band. But I was a part of that band. Yeah, that was my second, actually committed to hardcore band. But I kind of came in. I wasn't the OG guitar player. Yeah. I don't remember if there was one. If I just came in as a second guitar player, but I don't actually remember the birth of that.
And how long was that for?
That was for well, it must have been from maybe 99 to 2002 or 1, but they might have started in 97 or something like that. I mean, and then they still peppered around and maybe played some shows and did things. It's kind of horrible. My brain fails me from time to time, or quite a bit, on actual timelines or how long things lasted or didn't last, but yeah, that is one that's sort of foggy for me.
And then you did your time in the hardcore jail and your hardcore prison, and then right after that was Boxcar, right?
Yeah. So that came from we were actually it was my kind of, at that point in my life, I was in my early mid-20s, and I kind of realized that the commitment to I wanted to play music, playing hardcore, if I can, I don't know, say this, but I could see that the commitment of doing it was going to be really hard it's only a handful of special bands, especially at that time, maybe Sick of It All, maybe a couple others that were actually probably paying some rent and stuff with their bands, but they were like the biggest ones, you're like, well, I want to play music, and I want to do this. So I don't know that I needed to start putting it out there that I needed to maybe, not that I would leave hardcore music, but I needed to kind of broaden my
Wet your beak.
my reach, you know. So I started looking for other things, some other people to play with and stuff, and
yeah, so you know, and Boxcar had homeboy from Blink, right? And who else was in the band?
Travis was from Blink as well.
Oh yeah,
the drummer. So we had Tom.
Yo, you froze. You froze. There you go. You're back.
Are we back?
Yeah. So you said we're talking about Blink. So I mean Blink. Talking about Boxcar. So
yeah,
Travis
but no, we were
Tom,
talking about Blink.
Yeah. So you were saying it froze what you were doing, but no. So it Travis and Tom from Blink. But how did that? Did you know those guys before the band?
Yeah, I knew. I mean, I don't want to jam you up too long with that part of the story, but essentially, Tom is we had our friend circle when we were teenagers. Tom was in that friend circle, and we all individually had different bands. There was the Get Down Clowns. I was in a band called Them.
The Get Down Clowns. That's kind of
Get Down Clowns. There was another band called the Iconoclast. And then ultimately Tom started Blink at that time. Blink was the only thing that actually obviously
I think I heard of them.
Yeah, you think you heard of them. And so, I mean, Tom, you know, he kind of, you know, obviously things moved on for him, but it wasn't like, because we had that connection at that age, it wasn't someone that I couldn't reach out to and look for, you know, advice or, you know, and ultimately we started, after so long, we started chatting, and I was like, I wanted to bridge the gap between, let's say, the music that I was into, and then Tom wanted to bridge the gap that the music that he was currently playing. And I was playing just kind of more straight up sort of hardcore, and he was playing in Blink. So we were like, what's the middle? What can we do in the middle?
So you were part of that, you know, you didn't join nothing. You guys all started kind of together talking about it, and then started Boxcar.
Yeah. And then, I mean, and then it just sort of put me into a very uncomfortable environment pretty quick, because I didn't really understand, you know, you playing hardcore music and then you have somebody that sold millions and millions of records. It's not, it was dramatic as far as for me to all of a sudden to be in or around that. Yeah,
you were never an attention guy. That's why there's some people that love that big attention.
Yeah,
of course it feels good to, you know, to be people like what you do, but I know what you mean. It's kind of makes you uncomfortable. It makes me uncomfortable still, you know, like too many people like, hey, yo, we love you. Oh, it's, you know, it feels good, but I still feel awkward sometimes whenever that happens.
You don't know what to say. You're like, okay, sick, I like it too. I don't know what to say. Like, but no, well, I mean, and the whole thing, so that's how I got looped into that world with Tom, and then ultimately Travis.
And how long? What did you do with that? How many recordings? What was? Because I learned
wasn't much.
I learned about that through Toby and through when we first met. Before we'll get into the Hazen Street shit, but it was all because Built to Last I knew, and then your other band, Over My Dead Body. I remember it, but I never heard. Mainly Built to Last, and then always Boxcar Racer and fucking so on. What did you do with that? Recording wise,
it wasn't much. It was just the timing was, you know, record labels still really had all kinds of power. Blink was at a peak. And so, you know, for as much noise as it made, it really, all we actually did was we recorded one record and we did one tour, never went to like Europe or anything, and did some radio shows, did some radio stuff, but it was all, you know, it was just it was a weird little year and a half or something, you know, maybe, you know.
And then the next band, you band whore.
Yeah,
and then all right, this is what Angels and Airwaves and Hazen Street. What was first?
Hazen Street.
Hazen Street. So, all right, let's talk about Hazen Street because a lot of people fucking been at one of these days. I'm gonna do a Hazen Street reunion. Well, we get I'm gonna do it before Toby jumps on it. So you heard it here first, everybody. But we're gonna try to get everybody on one day and we could talk some shit. But how did it come up on your side, the whole Hazen Street shit? Like when you first heard or got,
Well, because we Boxcar Racer took H2O on tour. And so I obviously became close or familiar with Toby and Rusty and I don't know, but just H2O, everybody, Adam. I became very comfortable with them for that 6 weeks or that period of time. And I was already like, from where I was at, I was always already so familiar with all of them. I not just seen, I was a fan already. Bought the records. I remember seeing Toby running around in the Rancid videos, going like, "Dang, that dude is cool as hell," And then I remember seeing Adam Blake. He played in Shelter, I believe.
Yep.
And he came out to San Diego. I saw him play, and he had his puka shells on. I was like, "Oh snap!" I don't know. I don't know about all that.
Mr. Blake, shout out to Adam Blake.
I got to see Adam blossom essentially, because he was, from the those 90s and then going into H2O is just I was just a fan of everybody already. I was already kind of like, I was already so familiar. So then I got the opportunity to spend time with them. It's like I still wanted to be close and, try to learn, just become, I just trying to live out my.
And then, but you remember how the whole Hazen Street shit was brought up to you on your side? Because I don't remember even meeting you the first time. I just remember the next thing we're chilling, we're hanging out. I don't remember hey, what's up? I'm Hoya. I never even remember.
It was just a talk. All of a sudden, Toby's like, Boxcar wasn't really doing anything. Because of, I guess, the band, I'd become kind of with, Chad Gilbert from Newfound Glory.
Chad, shout out to Chad.
We had become, close almost because I moved to Los Angeles, and we were all we were actually the three of us. We all kind of lived around each other on the same block. From music, we were just kind of close. It's a pretty that was interesting, that time period. And then Toby just had this plan, wanting to, it's kind of almost the same thing. It kind of felt like, starting Boxcar Racer or being involved with Boxcar Racer, the conversations to start Hazen Street were almost similar. Everybody had their path and kind of were going, but it was like, this would allow us to, not everyone was friends already. So it's like, obviously Toby and you guys were so close. I think having the opportunity to actually play music together was, appealing, and then also just being able to do something that was different than what I felt like hearing that you guys were up for doing it and wanting to do it. It sounded like the same thing. It was like, it just gives us another platform, express ourselves a little differently, and without the same expectations. And so that was the start of the conversations. I don't really, I kind of remember I assume is the first rehearsal, at Swing House. And I remember the first time I got to hear that bass just come in,
that's what I keep it coming.
I wish I could remember that. I was trying to remember. It wasn't Fool the World, but it was one of those songs, like one of those early ones where we just started, and it all started like all of a sudden. And then,
I remember,
Freddie,
and it was, I remember, because I remember, I don't remember if it was the first day or whatever, but I remember jamming, like first putting the songs together. Again, shout out to Chad. Chad had a lot to do with he was a lot of the glue. Even one of the reasons we, when we got asked, he was like, "Yo, I would love to play with you guys. I love all your guys' bands." And I remember hearing he had one of those. I think it was "Fool the World," as a matter of fact. And I remember, I remember knowing that hearing the music, I knew it was different, and I knew Chad's background. Well, Chad's a real hardcore kid, but obviously Newfound Glory's on the more pop punk thing that we're doing. But I remember the one riff, the boom, 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 boom. And I remember being like, at first I was like, it's kind of goofy.
How's that gonna work?
Yeah, exactly. I was like, it's kind of goofy, but kind of what you said, like at that moment, I remember hearing it. And then I remember Mackie jumping in on drums.
Yeah.
Right. And then I remember going, and I remember like Mackie bopping, and I'm like, yo, if we could make this shit, it feels good now. And I go, man, if it feels good, fuck it. Like if, it felt, it had something to it.
It would just seem like this is the point, is the opportunity to do something that wasn't comfortable. Yeah. And so that was the whole point. Like it was to let someone like Chad that could really pull everyone essentially out of their comfort zone and be like, because Chad can write songs. And he's great, he can really write songs, and he's got good vision, and he could make everyone uncomfortable, but everyone had to like still put their own personality into, it still had to be you. And but it was you initially uncomfortable, and you had to find that. So it's just really, it was, for me, if nothing else, it was exciting to see everyone all of a sudden like being them, but in a different way. And hearing Freddie sing, it's like all of a sudden I was like, whoa, this is, it was fun,
No, it was great. It was funny because me and Toby couldn't look at each other like the first 6 months playing, because we would just laugh. We were like, get the fuck out of here. We're in a band together. Like we would literally not look at each other on stage because we would just start laughing. But for us, for me, I can speak for Freddie, and that was like our first experience getting snowballed into something that moved fast. Because we got thrown in, when we started jamming, that thing popped off, and the next thing you know, we're going to California, we're rehearsing, we're doing demos in all these studios, and then pretty crazy.
Do you remember though, like this is something you and Toby didn't talk about. I haven't heard anybody really bring up, but do you remember demoing in Brooklyn, in Dumbo?
No. Well, we did it at Maddie's spot. Was it at Maddie Henderson's spot?
It might have been. It was up in a loft. It was upstairs in a bombed out, back then it was like, I don't know what I imagined Dumbo,
Yeah, it was. No, it was like that, but I don't remember a lot of that.
It was like a crazy, and there was the pizza joint. Like we spent a lot of time in New York, and I think you guys don't realize, I think you guys, because it is probably so natural to what you guys were doing that you're always focused on what you did in Los Angeles. We did a lot of stuff in New York. Initially. And I remember we spent weeks, and that was I just kind of curious. Yeah. If you remember.
That, no, it's funny, cause I didn't remember a lot of that. Yeah. What I remember was, obviously the swing house jams, all that time. I remember that was the spot where all where we saw the Bangles rehearse that, right? And fucking Veruca Salt.
I can't. Yeah, I can't. Yeah, I don't.
I would sneak in when the Bangles were playing. I would sneak to the door and oh shit, listen through the door.
That was always. The Swing House is a pretty an established and famous rehearsal spot. You could have. It's right in the middle of right in the mix of everything, right in Hollywood. So it's like you could potentially have a list of bands.
Yeah, we had and I remember was demoing in that in the Foo Fighter studio. You remember that by Amoeba? Yeah. Remember that? Me and you were we almost wrecked the place wrestling. Don't you remember?
We were wrestling. Well, that was I don't remember what I remember. I just remember the place that was it was up on I don't know what I'm terrible at the streets, the Sunset or something like east and by Amoeba Music, and then I just remember the guy, and I remember getting mad about the fucking chain link or something, the pull-up door. He went too fast. He came off. It's just some goofy shit, the goofy stuff that I remember,
Yeah.
I remember working there. I definitely remember wrestling. I definitely remember fighting.
I remember in that little ass, because I remember they were like, oh, this is Dave Grohl's studio or whatever. And I just remember me and you wrestling, almost wrecking the place. Yeah. We were like, it was a small spot. We were both like assholes.
I don't carry as much weight as I used to back then, but yeah, I think we used to scare some people when we would fuck around.
Yeah, no, it was crazy. But I remember a lot of those like jam times and where we ended up because we were thrown in like some weird situations. I remember a couple situations with you, especially. I remember being at a meeting. I won't say who was in the meeting, but it was me, you, somebody else in Hazen Street. and some other people that were running the company, and they were selling us the world, telling us how our lives were going to change. And I remember me and you, we were like, I remember specifically, you know, if it was cool that people seemed that psyched on the band where they were like, yo, this is going to blow. And I remember saying, yeah, God hoping. And I remember they were like, nah, this shit's going to blow. Yeah. And I remember me and you looking at each other. I never forget that. And being like, you know, we believe shit when we see it, but like, we can't even pay our sidekick bills.
I've always wondered if that was a blessing or a curse that you could, you know, you take things, you don't get anything until you've got it. You know, exactly. Somebody telling you something doesn't mean anything until it's like tangible. It's there. You have it.
That's what I'm saying. I was proud of that moment now that, you know, when the real shit was getting thrown at us, we didn't fall for the bullshit. You know, or me. I remember it was me, you specifically at that. Not the whole band wasn't at the meeting. It was me, you, and one other person in the band. But I'll speak for me and you. But I remember me and you specifically looking at each other like, sounds great. But, you know, not till we could pay our sidekick bill. You know what I mean? No. Like, it ain't happening. And fucking,
that's the thing is that was always something that, like I said, I don't know, because it was so hard to hear people say stuff like that and just believe things. And, but also I've been around people where they just are unwavering. They just believe everything that anyone says to them. Yeah. And it works out for them great sometimes, you know, to where it's like, well, maybe you're supposed to really just be like, hell yeah, that's what's up. That's what's going to happen. But I'm just not wired that way. I can't.
Yeah, I know. And
it's like I keep working for it until we have it, essentially.
Exactly.
You know?
And that's what I was going to, I remember that moment a lot, because to me, that's like, you see how people act, you know, when the shit goes down, you know, like you really see who falls for the Kool-Aid and shit. You know what I mean? And I'm glad that we kind of were like that hardcore mentality. You know, we heard all the stories, all the rock and roll stories. People get promised the world. You know, we don't believe it till we have it, you know, and especially, you know, like we talked about, I think with Toby, like, how crazy was that in the middle of the Warped Tour we did, flying in to do the showcase for Epic, doing fucking 2 songs, put us all up at the W Hotel and all that shit. Remember that?
You know, it's funny. See, that's something that I actually don't fucking remember.
It's funny that you don't remember, because I want to say that Warped Tour was the last tour that we did before the band, because
no, we did Good Charlotte and Sum 41, and
that was the last one we did.
That was the very last one that we did. Yeah, that was the very last one.
Then it had to be the Warped Tour, and then that tour last, because I remember during Warped Tour, we already started feeling the effects of different owners at the record company and where we stood in that record company. Yeah. For support and all that in the middle of Warped Tour.
The whole thing was, it was also fast, but it was a lot happened. A lot of work went into that portion of time, you know, like with a lot of traveling, a lot of shows.
Taking showers outside at Warped Tour.
Yeah, that was Warped Tour. I thought I would never. I did end up doing it one more time after that, but
not the way we had to do it. That's for sure.
No, I didn't do it like that.
Horrible. That shit was a nightmare.
It's character building. I tell you who it was horrible for, which and now these are the things that I look back and realize is Royce.
Oh,
Royce. I mean,
Royce is he's a trooper.
He is a machine, and he was I don't know what to do for him actually at this point.
Yeah, well, I know. I just hug him.
I know, because the reality is at the time you don't realize what everyone's, or maybe I was young or just not paying attention, just stupid. But I mean, Royce would push all the equipment. He did so much. And
Royce is a trooper. Yeah, it's true. And especially that, like, we were getting to do a lot of big things, but Royce was our guy, you know, and Royce was multitasking like a motherfucker, you know, and a former Marine. What do you expect?
Trying to budget everything on no budget. I mean, he's just such a beautiful human. It's crazy.
Yeah, and with his cute little Chinese eyes. I remember how crazy. I don't know if we talked about it with Toby, but like one time getting some money with whoever we were dealing with at the time, and we had to like meet them. We were meeting people in alleyways, getting shit in fucking envelopes.
It was a back alley. Gave us a paper bag of cash, and it was like, I mean, it was a lot. I mean, essentially in that paper bag was a lot of money. I mean, it got divided up amongst all of us, so it becomes less money. But the reality is, pulling up into a black dark alleyway. And our manager at the time.
Yeah, crazy, man. So much crazy shit. That's what I was saying. Like, from our first tour period was main support for Story of the Year when they were fucking had a hit song on the radio playing Orlando. I remember the first show was at the Orlando House of Blues.
That was
first show, and Martin was with us. Remember, it was Warren, Royce. We had the whole squad. I remember looking at each other like we made it. Like all our boys. It's everybody here is actually a friend and shit.
Martin's
killing it. Martin's
he started working for like Sean Paul or some kind of
he did stuff. Sean Paul back then, and you know who he's with now. He does. I don't know if you heard of them. The 1975.
Yeah.
They're good. They're cool dudes too, and that's Martin. Really? Yeah, good guys. They're good dudes, and
they're really cool dudes.
No, they're cool guys, and I got to catch up with those kids, and Martin, a couple of times, and Martin's killing it, man. He's killing it with them, and it was pretty crazy, and then
I know they do really, really well.
Yeah, and us going to Japan, us and Yellow Card, remember that shit? The whole Japan shit, insane.
Yeah, that was a learning experience.
Yeah, there was a lot of learning, and fucking crazy times, man. We got to do a lot, and all that shit. Basically, right after that is when you fell into the whole. How much time was it after the Hazen Street was the end, and then
a year
after?
Maybe it wasn't quite a year. Things fell along, but you know what? It might have been just months. It kind of came back around to where because like the energy shifted from Hazen Street. I didn't know what to really do. So I was going to be looking for thinking I needed just a normal job. I was pretty burnt on dealing with, executives, our promises, I guess. I shouldn't just put it on a certain person, but I should say I was tired of dealing with people's promises. And, I didn't want it to control my life in that way, and but it just sort of came back to where going back from Boxcar Racer, it was like that wasn't going to happen. But Tom and I started talking about just music again, and he found him. Again, we just started talking about, gosh, what if we could just kind of, because Boxcar Racer kind of got also it had a lot of weird politics and a lot of people that were either having trouble with the sharing money or sharing popularity or feeling left out, or there was a lot of personal things going on there, and potential unhappiness. And then so it was like we just started talking about how can we maybe try to do it. But Tom and I always worked well together, so or found, I think, from Boxcar Racer that it could work. So we were like, well, what if we could build something else that that could potentially minus all that other kind of goofy stuff, and just try to enjoy things and try to make music and have fun again. And so we started Angels and Airwaves. Yeah.
And let me ask, without getting, we don't have to get into him too much, but was he always into that fucking alien shit? Because that shit it's coming out that, maybe he was too crazy with it, but now that shit's coming out. Finally, there's like real shit on this whole alien shit.
A lot of, so like Angels, we weren't active for almost 7 years, and a good portion of that, Tom and I probably weren't very close, just because I couldn't identify with his focus, and he can't identify with mine, and even though we live in the same virtual area, we weren't very close to each other in our development, our lives. So people did, though, always perceive me as being close to him. So they're always asking me like, yo, dude, did you hear his podcast, Joe Rogan, or did you see this other thing that he's doing? Like, just a lot of like gossip, trying to get clarity from me. But I'm like, look, I don't actually know about the CIA and everything, but what I can without a doubt say about Tom is he has been an enthusiast, you know,
That's
for
what I
as long
mean.
as I've known him. So it's like anything that you're, say, if you're a basketball fan or if you're whatever, this is what he is a fan of.
Yeah.
So he has been going down this path of trying to find answers since the mid 90s. So if you want to say, give him credit for being passionate about this for the last couple decades, 25 years, he's only going to get better at it.
Yeah.
I mean, even if I'm not a part of his life, I don't know the people he's met. Obviously, I don't. They're never going to invite me in.
Yeah.
I don't even want to fucking go, to be honest with you, because I'm just trying to sell coffee. So, you know, I think it's fun, and I think I want to be supportive of the stuff that he's doing. But it's not like I really know, but I just know that I can acknowledge what they've done, and he's never changed. I mean, he's really about it. He's always been about it. It's not like a new thing. So for someone to say all of a sudden be like, holy crap, he's totally gone, you know, he's gone nuts or he's done this. I was like, no, he's always been this way. Like,
that's what I was more curious about. That if if he was always like, into it,
I can remember going to boxer race rehearsals, and we had to drive all the way up to. We were in San Diego. Travis lived in Riverside or Corona actually, and we'd have to go up to Travis's warehouse to see us Famous Stars and Straps and do the rehearsals there. And I had to sit and listen to Tom for like 2 hours each way, talking about the new Sumerians from 3 million years in the future at war with new Sumerians and 5 million years in the future, and how they can warp time and travel. I was like, oh my fucking God, dude.
So, okay, we got to at least say he's a legit nut. At least he was always.
He has melted my brain for years. So it's like, so he's only going to, you know, and he's pursued it, you know, I mean, he was talking to generals, he has been trying to talk to the right people that could give him the answers he wants for decades. So, I mean, like, it's, you know, it's just like what anyone's thing is. I mean, he's about it and he believes it. And I'm not a person to say any of it's true or not. Sorry. It's not true because he's the one doing the research. He's the one putting in the work. You know, I don't do any work. I don't, you know what I mean? Like, I don't put in that work that he does. And so I definitely stick up for him in that way. Even for the years that I wasn't around him, I was like, you can say what you want, but I have to just by default stick up for him because he's always been that way.
Yeah. And the cool shit is now, like, we got to run into you, which was that was another cool little story. You know, you're starting to do some shows here and there with Angels and Airwaves, right? You're still doing stuff here and there, right? Yeah.
Well, now, like, Tom and I got reconnected a couple years ago. I can't even believe it's been a year, like, whatever. But it was a little bit. He was going through a bit of a change in his personal life, and I think it opened him up to reconnect.
Frozen.
Being normal for a little bit, and then all of a sudden we just started chatting about shows. But yeah, and so we finally went back out and played God together and got through some rehearsals and
so doing some so you do some pop-up shows and some radio shows or shows like that,
well,
right?
Whenever they pop up. Yeah, no, well, we did a full thing last year. Like, it was nutty. We did a full US. We did like 2 full US runs. The second one that we ran into you on was a sort of the Christmas holiday radio show run in December. But prior to that, which still took us around all around the States for that month, and then we had done like a 6-week run around just North America. You know, some what do you call it? Like, you know, back in September and October.
Yeah,
and
it was cool. That was a cool coinky dink. What happened with us and you guys to be able to see you out in fucking Minneapolis.
That was for me, it was really incredible because I was just, we were just sitting. I was sitting in the hotel room, and we were in Minneapolis. The band itself hadn't played. I hadn't gotten to see you in so long. Fortunately, you guys have been so active, and the times lined up to where I still get to come and at least get a hug, from everybody. Because you guys still coming through San Diego, but it still was just so different. It felt like it's been way too long. And then all of a sudden, Freddie messaged me. He goes, "Hey, I think you're in Minneapolis right now." Cool. And I was like, "Yeah." I said, "Where are you?" And he's like, "I'm in Minneapolis." I was like, "We're playing at the First Street, whatever the club is, First Street or something.
First Avenue.
Yeah. And he's all, "I'm going to be right there." I was like, wait a second. I'm actually in my hotel room right now. And he's like, "Where's that?" And I'm like, "It's like the freaking Howard Johnson or whatever it was." And he's like, "Shut the fuck up." He's like, "I'm that right now." And I was like, you got literally the room below me or something.
Yep.
I'm like, "I'm just watching RoboCop right now." I'm going.
The crazy shit was this. We were actually playing the next town. What's the other? There's Minneapolis and whatever the next Twin City is. And basically was Freddie fucked up on the hotel. Like, he thought, man, we're staying away. We were supposed to fucking get a hotel near the venue, and now we got to stay over here. And I'm laying in bed or something, and they're like, "Yo, Dave Kennedy's here."
All I know is that was that was very special for me. Speaking for myself, too. Like, I was just like, there was just a really, I don't know, comforting thing to have you guys be able to be in a hotel and get to see you guys. Like,
oh yeah, it was meant to be. Same thing. They were like, I get a text. I think it was my boy Steven. He's who helps me out with the podcast. I think it was him who was with us. Somebody, forgot who, and they were like, "Yo, Dave Kennedy's around." I said, "What?" They go, "Yo, he's in the hotel," and I was like, "What are you talking about? Like, get the fuck!" And they're like, "No, he's at the hotel." And I said, "I'm coming down right now."
Yeah.
And then that's when we fucking got to link up. Crazy, small world.
I mean, when it comes to that, it's such a big world. But then when you whittle it down, people will find the same that are on that path, like run into each other. Yeah. That was random.
Again with the music, how dealing with hotels, touring. That's how the forces helps us connect. Is through this music shit and fucking after obviously this COVID shit, how much is this? How did it fuck with your business a little bit over here, over there? Fuck with the coffee? What's the deal?
It just felt like the world has had their boot on our neck, this whole time, and it's like, are they going to apply more pressure? Are they going to relieve some pressure? It's still there. People are pulling the strings. They've allowed, from my work, they've allowed us to navigate it and operate still on some capacity. So we didn't, we've just, as much as we can do, we do. And we've been able to operate through this whole thing.
Good.
And try to make it as comfortable for everybody as possible, from the people that are working in the shops every day and from the people that are coming in. Just trying to make everyone somehow just try to keep morale somewhere.
Yeah, and I love the spot, man. We had a good time the last time we got to jump in, and I got to show you how to do pour-overs.
Oh yeah, I mean? You went to the others. Yeah, you went to the. That was a bummer because I missed you guys coming down, because Freddie, one of you guys on the map where they had an hour or an hour and a half off. I don't know. I had to do something with my daughter. So, but anyway, you came down and did a guest spot.
A guest pour. Listen, you know that whenever we're there, the first thing this is not even a joke. We're like, what time we're getting in? Yo, we're hitting Dave's spot. But what spot are we close? Is he around or what's what? You know the routine. We always link up.
I would say the guys working, guys and girls working. I think it was M and Fernando. They still talk about it. They're just so pumped on life. They were like, well, how are we gonna know? Because I was like, look, these guys are coming. And he's like, how? I was like, they're like, but how are we gonna know who it is? I was like, don't even, like, you'll know. Like, it's gonna be the most obvious thing to date in your life right now. Like,
with the door swing open, we're like, yo, what up? Yo, where's Dave? Right away, I was like, where's Dave Kennedy? Yo, go call him right away, threatening him.
I was like, there's no way that you will not know. So
no, but that's good. I'm glad what's the plan? So it's good. The coffee shop's open. Everybody out there in the fucking California area, go hit that shit up. And you might be doing any more Angels in Airwaves shit after all this shit happens?
The Tom has been really active. He's been writing a lot of music. I know is hoping to put out a record, but everything's been getting pushed because there's not a way to support the record coming out. So I think it's the same things you guys are experiencing as far as like just kind of routing something for 2021, but nobody really knows if they can, when it comes time, can they pull the trigger? Yeah. So I think it's the same for Angels and Airwaves. We have a lot of stuff on the schedule this year. But it's everything getting pushed till actually, I think we're just conceded to the end of fall of 2021 potentially. So,
so we can look out for more coffee and some more Angels and Airwaves. And remember, if you need an animal to eat your beans and shit them out for some special brew, I need a job.
Yeah. Well, I can always find something else for you.
Yo,
I know there's a lot more value in there than that.
Listen, I'm a worker bee. Just let me know. Just let me know where you need me to shit those things out. You know what I mean? But I'm glad I got to catch up with you, Dave. I told you I need to get DK on this, and I'm glad that we had a little technical. No, we had some time. Basically, I got my GED, everybody, and we were talking Pacific and Eastern time, and I got my numbers and my times messed up, and we made it happen. But whatever.
We
made it happen. But I'm really glad we got to catch up, Dave. Hopefully, we could fucking one of these years we might just do a pop-up Hazen Street thing. Only Madison Square Garden, or like or have Madison Oasis open definitely. For us. You know what I mean? Something like that for Hazen Street. Maybe we could hit that stage together again.
Yeah, again.
Yeah. And everybody, and remember when we're gonna all the shows, all the arena shows Hazen Street does will be sponsored by James Coffee. So everybody out there, get ready. Everybody, I want everybody out there, if you're in the San Diego area, go hit fucking Dave's spot up. He got banging coffee. You ask him about stories of Hoya Rock. He might give you a little discount. And
I've got some stories.
Yeah, well, not all of them. Some of them you keep, for returning customers.
I got some stories. I'll be kind.
Yeah, but Dave, I'm glad we got to catch up with you. We talk soon. Hopefully we'll be over there soon, man. I'm planning. Hopefully we're gonna be recording again. Hopefully with Tim in LA, and hopefully you make a little trip up, make a little trip down. We we got to get together.
I'll come up if you guys are, and not to run this out, but like I was, how crazy you guys? You made it here in February.
I know.
I mean,
the last tour we did was the California run. You were one of the last people we saw. I think we went from there to Frisco, and then that was the last show we fucking played. So it was good to be able to see you like in Minneapolis and then catch you at the spot. With you, we didn't get into it on this one, but like me and you I think me and you were the ones that had the most fun with Hazen Street. If we were the ones.
Well, I wasn't stressing out.
Like if it was on the Warped Tour, doing our little rounds, playing softball. We were killing it with the softball. Remember,
with George.
Yeah, Levels with Royce. We had we would talk about the Bad News Bears, man. We had some shit going on. But it was always. I was glad to catch up with you, man. Same thing with Freddie. We were amped to see you. Again, it was like it was magic that happened. How we got to connect. And hopefully we see you soon out there, and we could pay a visit, or you come up to LA and we could pound some coffee and talk some shit.
Keep me posted.
Yeah, definitely. Yo, Dave, thanks for coming on. Again, if you're in San Diego, everybody go to James Coffee. Go get that cafe. He loves to talk about me, so you could ask him all the questions you want about Hoya Rock. And Dave, love you, bro. Mad love to your family, to everybody, and hope to see you soon, dude.
See you.
Peace out.